Everybody, and welcome aboard. We are here live on the syracuse.com Orange Football Facebook page, and we are coming off a Syracuse football win. That's right, Syracuse football gets the win today, their first win of the 2020 season, their first win in the newly renovated Carrier Dome, and their first ever program win, by the way, over Georgia Tech, who had handed Syracuse some of its worst losses in program history, a 56-0 loss recently, a big Champs Sports Bowl loss that Syracuse had to Georgia Tech back in 2004. Georgia Tech's first trip inside New York State in 95 years, believe it or not. And it is a loss for the Yellow Jackets. It's the first win of the season for the Orange. 37-20 was the final score at the Carrier Dome. Great to be with you here. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health. You guys hop in the comment section, do your thing. I'll react to you a little bit as we go here, but a big win for Syracuse in a lot of ways. They needed to get some confidence back after what was obviously a rough start to the season. The offense had to get its confidence back after a rough start to the season. The defense with 5 takeaways today for Syracuse. The defense comes through again. Now, there were some times where the defense struggled in this game, missed some tackles, and kind of gave Georgia Tech some opportunities, struggled with their mobile quarterback, Jeff Sims, but all told, 5 takeaways on the day. The Syracuse defense did its job and got back up from the offense, and it was a strange start to this game. A 30-minute delay at the Carrier Dome as 3 Syracuse players had to be retested. There were inconclusive results for their COVID-19 tests, so a term we're all familiar with these days, right? Out of an abundance of caution, Syracuse retested those 3 players, so kickoff was held up for about 30 minutes. All those tests came back negative, and Syracuse and Georgia Tech played a football game. It was kind of weird there for a while. Already a weird day at the Dome, right? They're debuting the new scoreboard and the new roof and the new field turf and the renovated Carrier Dome. $118 million renovation. Not completely done, but most of it done, of course, to get that first game underway here in 2020 for Syracuse. The latest start at the Carrier Dome ever after the Orange had a delayed start to the season due to COVID-19, 2 road games as well. So already a strange day, and 2020 comes in again, but all was good. And as the statement put out by Syracuse stated, this is what the system was designed to do. They want to be completely safe. They don't want anybody out there, even if there's an inconclusive test or any doubt about COVID results. The protocols put into place worked. They figured out that all was good, and Syracuse played a great game against Georgia Tech. One other negative note for Syracuse, though, we'll follow this, and certainly having a bye week will help out. Kind of a strange incident before the game. There wasn't video of the collision itself, but there was video put out on Twitter. Gil Gross of WAER, the first to put this video out there, of Andre Cisco, Syracuse's All-American safety. We didn't see video of him doing this, but Gil noted that Andre Cisco collided with his own teammate at about 10:30 this morning in kind of those early warm-ups. There's the warm-up session about a half hour before the game when everybody's in pads and kind of going through their pregame routine. Then there's kind of the warm-up to the warm-up where players just get out there, get loose a little bit, get going. They usually have their headphones on and are kind of getting into game mode. Well, Cisco collided with Ed Hendricks, a Syracuse wide receiver. And that video at about 10:30 this morning when it went up showed Cisco limping off the field. He didn't play today. And there were times noticeable when he was on camera and by others who caught him on camera, noticeable limp out of Andre Cisco. So I'm sure Dino Babers will, usually coaches are not that forthright with injury information, but maybe he'll note something that happened there. But Andre Cisco with a noticeable limp. He was out there, which is good news in the sense of supporting his teammates and not a dangerous enough situation where he had to go to the hospital or anything. So that's good. And it was not COVID related, that weird situation before the game. So kind of a bummer there. We'll follow that. But all told, Syracuse goes into the bye week with a much needed win. So let's go over some numbers in this one. We'll start on the team side of things. As we mentioned, Georgia Tech did have some success on the offensive side of the ball, but they just gave the ball away way too much. They had 23 first downs to Syracuse's 14. Georgia Tech ran the ball 52 times for 275 yards. The Orange ran 41 times for 163 yards. It was Sean Tucker doing it for the Orange. We'll give you his numbers here shortly, but this was a Syracuse team that was averaging 59 yards a game through the first two, rushing the ball. Much better performance today with 4 yards a carry for Syracuse. For Georgia Tech, 178 yards through the air. Tommy DeVito, 194 yards through the air today. So all told, Georgia Tech ran 84 plays for 453 yards. Syracuse ran 65 plays for 357, which is below what they want it to be. You know, Syracuse wants to be around 80 plays a game, but much more efficient today. And with the way Georgia Tech was giving the ball away, that doesn't matter as much. Georgia Tech really killed itself with 15 penalties on the day. Syracuse with 7 penalties. So turnovers and penalties really killer for Georgia Tech. I like their young quarterback. I think Jeff Sims is going to be a good player, but he's still raw, still young, and certainly made his fair share of mistakes today. So Tommy DeVito, much better day today. 13 of 24, 2 touchdowns. He did have an interception he'd like back where he kind of tossed it up for grabs. DeVito did have some bad moments today. There was a scramble. It was 3rd and 20. He took off and ran. Could have easily had the first down, but wasn't aware where the first down marker was. Ran out of bounds before that. But all told, based on what we saw the first 2 days, had a great touchdown throw to Nykeem Johnson, a great touchdown throw to Taj Harris. Tommy got to be in his comfort zone a little bit today, throwing the ball deep. And while he still was under pressure at times, certainly a much-needed day for DeVito. We came into this game maybe thinking Rex Culpepper was going to get a share of the snaps at quarterback. They do have a package for Rex. Of course, we saw him a week ago against Pittsburgh. Not the case. Tommy DeVito showing he's the starting quarterback of this team today, and he goes into the bye week with some much-needed confidence. We mentioned the numbers. Nykeem Johnson, 4 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown. He had a 43-yard score. Taj Harris with 64 yards on the day. He had a 46-yard score. By golly, Syracuse threw the tight end today. We'll take it. Baby steps, progress. Aaron Hackett with a 10-yard catch. Luke Benson was targeted. Hackett would have had what could have been a touchdown when DeVito actually targeted him on a play, but he got held up by the Georgia Tech defense. They were called for defensive holding on the play. So good to see the tight ends involved, but really one of the most encouraging things on offense today was Sean Tucker, the freshman running back who showed a little bit of this a week ago against Pittsburgh, comes out at the Dome today, ran with power, ran with purpose. He had a spectacular touchdown run. I'm sure you saw it, but if you didn't, the highlights are out there. So Tucker took off and run and was kind of held up by the Georgia Tech defense, got spun around and had the awareness to know that his knee wasn't down. So he just kept going and ran in for the touchdown. There was a couple of really interesting touchdowns in this game. The Sean Tucker play, the deep shots. How about the defensive touchdown? Jihad Carter, who, by the way, has been spectacular, and particularly for a Syracuse defense that was missing Andre Cisco today, had some injuries, had some players banged up. Carter gets an interception, and it was kind of one of those no, yes plays. Whereas he gets caught up, and instead of just going down and giving the offense the possession, he laterals to Trill Williams, who took it in for a touchdown. So all told, it was a touchdown, and it's an exciting play, and you can look back on it and smile, but could have gone drastically wrong. I'm still sure he'll get talked to by his coach, Dino Babers, his defensive coordinator, Tony White, about, yeah, don't do that. But in that case, it worked. So Tucker had 24 carries today for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's certainly going to get some reps going forward, works his way into the rotation. DeVito at 23 yards rushing. Markenzie Pierre got in at the end, had a touchdown taken away, unfortunately, because his knee was down. Jawar Jordan, not much today because Tucker was the star, just 6 yards on the day. So, listen, this was a much-needed performance by Syracuse on both sides of the ball. Just wanted to note some defensive stats as well. Rob Hanna, another young player, comes into that secondary. 9 tackles on the day, an interception on the day. He was banged up a little bit. There was a play where he kind of dove for an interception, hit his head on the turf. The ball got jammed in his gut. He was vomiting on the field. Thankfully, he came back, big difference maker. So this is a deep, talented secondary for Syracuse with Hanna, Cisco when he's healthy, Iffy Melifonwu, Trill Williams. We mentioned Jihad Carter, the talent that he had. He had 7 tackles on the day. Michael Jones, another terrific day for the Orange. This kid is becoming a leader and a star at the linebacker position. That was a position we just weren't sure about coming into the season, but he's been great. I think Jeff Canton-Arku had a great day, got pressure on Sims. He kind of forced some of those turnovers and the pressure that he put on the quarterback. He was terrific. And again, the defense had their moments today they'd like back. There were some missed tackles. They certainly could not stop the run today. That's a concern. But I think we had to expect the defense to take a step back. The first 2 weeks, they were brilliant and got no help from the offense whatsoever and ran out of gas. Today, the defense, had their weak moments, but they had a bunch of third down stops in the fourth quarter. They had turnovers when needed and came through when certainly they had to. But they didn't have to carry the whole day. And that was huge, that the offense backed them up. They scored. They had sustained drives, even when they scored quickly. It's such a different thing for the defense to come out on the field, even if it's quickly, after a score or the momentum of a turnover, as opposed to 3 and out, Tommy DeVito throwing an interception, Tommy DeVito running out of bounds when the offense is giving you nothing. Well, today, Syracuse got it. And look, you had to get this win in a lot of ways, not only because of the 0-2 start. You didn't want to go in your bye week 0-3, but this is a team you could beat. This was a team. Now, Georgia Tech beat Florida State in week 1. Maybe Florida State's not going to turn out to be a very good team. We'll see about that, but that's an impressive win out of the gate. They struggled a week ago. Georgia Tech missed some key players on defense, but all told, when you looked at it, coming in, it's something we talked about during the week. It's something I wrote about during the week. I was the only syracuse.com writer to pick Syracuse to win the game. So, attaboy for the Axeman there. But the reason I picked Syracuse to win this game, and I thought it'd be a lot more or less scoring than this, was the turnovers. Jeff Sims, in particular, talented quarterback, but you could see it. He had 5 turnovers coming into this game, 4 interceptions. He had lost a couple fumbles that he recovered, but also gave up a couple fumbles coming into this game. With the 3-3-5 defense, with the aggressive style that Syracuse plays on defense, I felt like they could get the turnovers. The big question was, could the offense capitalize on them? Because in game 1 and game 2, the answer to that was no. Well, here in game 3, the answer to that was yes. So Syracuse gets a bye week. Then they come back on October 10th. They host Duke. That's a team that's got its own problems. They're very good at rushing the passer. They've got 2 of the best defensive ends in the ACC, but a team that is squarely in rebuild mode down at Duke. It's the team that Syracuse beat 49-6 at the end of last season. And then they host Liberty at the Carrier Dome. So after being on the road the first 2 games, home win, bye, 2 more home wins. You would hope for Syracuse, 2 more home games, right? That's the plan. And if you can bounce back and somehow go 3-2 after that 0-2 start, you're sitting pretty. By the way, unique thing in college football, and this is 2020, man, just the weird circumstance all around. There is no win minimum to go to a bowl game this year. So even a 3 or 4 win Syracuse team could end up going to a bowl game. But just a much needed win for morale, too. This was a community, a fan base, down on its team, looking for encouraging signs, and it was tough to find them. But they capitalized on their opportunities today, and they certainly deserve credit for that. So we say we hop in the comments and see what you guys are saying here in the comments. Appreciate you coming by. I always like where you're checking in from. Let me know where you're watching from today on Facebook. I saw Martin. Hello, sir. Coming in from Florida. Very good. Nice, gorgeous Florida-like day up here in central New York today. Sunshine and 80 degrees. We will take it, that's for sure. Doug asked, Brent, between their performances against UNC, Pitt, and Georgia Tech, what is the reality? What kind of team is SU really at this point? Doug, that's a terrific question, because I think the most realistic part of, if I had to pick one game, the most realistic team, I think, was the last game against Pittsburgh. I think this is an offense that's going to struggle against good defenses. I think if you can't give Tommy DeVito time to throw the football and you, by and large, can't run the football, that's what we're going to see. Meanwhile, a defense that's opportunistic, that's hard-hitting, that gets takeaways. Today, Tommy had enough time in certain possessions to throw the ball, and Syracuse found a running game. But Georgia Tech is probably one of the weakest teams Syracuse is going to face. So you want to see Tucker continue to run the ball well. You want to give DeVito just enough time. And you know what I liked about today, Doug, was what was not characteristic of Syracuse today, and that was a good thing. we're not going to hear Dino Babers talk about the timeouts he didn't use or the field goal they didn't kick. I mean, Andre Schmidt had a rough day. He missed a 53-yard field goal, but at least he kicked it this time. They threw the ball to the tight end. They went out and they left everything on the field that they could, and that they went for it. They tried it. They went for it on fourth down, right? You'd rather see a team do that and fail as opposed to being afraid to do it. So what's the reality of this team? It wasn't quite today, but I think this defense is good. It's going to continue to create takeaways. They're one of the top teams in the country in doing that. This offense is certainly not as efficient as we saw from quarter one to quarter four today, but we saw what they can do when they're given time, and the offensive line opens up some holes for Sean Tucker. John, I couldn't agree more with the tight end thing. Why not target the tight ends in the red zone? That frustrates me. I don't know why Sterling Gilbert doesn't do it. It's an easy, and maybe he's overthinking it and maybe thinking that opposing teams are going to do this, but just throw the ball to the darn tight end. Aaron Hackett and Luke Benson are terrific players. Benson especially. You get him the ball in the flat, get that, as football coaches like to say, get that yak, the yards after the catch. He's terrific. So I hope when Sterling Gilbert watches some film here in the bye week, he kind of has a eureka moment and says, we should probably be throwing the ball to these guys a little bit more. Just kind of going through some more of your comments here. Appreciate you guys coming in. Austin, Texas, checking in. What's up, Patrick? EE Brothers says freshmen all over the field. It bodes well for depth. That is a great point, EE, because we mentioned Jihad Carter. We mentioned a few other players. Mikel Jones is not a freshman, but a young guy. There's a lot of talent, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So if Syracuse struggles, if this is a team that kind of teeters and puts people in doubt, what kind of young talent do you have, and what kind of recruiting are you doing? There's some young talent making plays on this team. They have recruited some pretty highly rated guys. The highest rated recruit they've had in 10 years, Deuce Chestnut, the defensive tackle whose name is escaping me at the moment. Somebody can look that up for me, please. Arondé Gatson, who's the son of former Miami Dolphins wide receiver Arondé Gatson. He's Arondé Gatson the second. He's committed to Syracuse. So there is a little bit in the pipeline here. And there is some young talent on this team. So that's encouraging. And if you can put freshmen out there on the field in a complicated defense that they're all just learning and they're making plays, it shows you that Tony White is putting this defense in a position to just make plays. Just play. Play with confidence. Don't think. This is where you go. This is what you do. And it's an opportunistic defense that's getting takeaways. And they did it today without Andre Cisco. They did it today. Trill Williams was just terrific again. Look, Trill Williams is going to play on Sundays. This guy's a dynamic talent who's around the ball. Sometimes when you don't even hear from Trill Williams, it's because he's doing his job and opposing receivers just are not finding room. But we mentioned Carter, and I want to give props to him. Hannah was the other name I wanted to mention there. So encouraging stuff there for sure. You got to see those young players step up, and they're doing it. They're not overwhelmed by the moment. They're going to have some rough times when you play some better teams, but they're showing they can hang out there, and that is still absolutely the case. Scott says they got to get out and get a JUCO quarterback. I think that'd be a terrific idea. They tried in the offseason. They went after, the North Carolina kid. His name is Cade Fortin. They tried to get him. Weren't successful. They certainly had the feelers out, especially in an era with transfers. It didn't work out with Chris Blake at the offensive guard position, but at an era, COVID-19, players wanting to transfer closer to home, transfer waivers going through at a 90% clip in the offseason. Couldn't get a quarterback. I think they want to get some JUCO offensive linemen as well, or some transfers at that position, build depth on that one. So the weak spots in the offensive line were hidden today. That's for sure. They're not going to continue to be hidden against good teams. Duke is a great defense. As I mentioned, a couple of the top pass rushers in the ACC there, but certainly a beatable team. Liberty is a team that has some speed, has some talent, but Syracuse certainly has to beat at home, right? So I think somebody mentioned a 6-6 still possible. I mean, that was my prediction. If Syracuse takes care of business at home, which they did today, and they beat Duke, and they beat Liberty, and they beat the teams at home that are on their schedule for the most part. You always have to kind of build in one loss, right? You can't expect the team to go undefeated at home. And find a win on the road that you weren't expecting. And that's the disappointing thing about Pitt and North Carolina. Those were both winnable games. Those were both games Syracuse showed through three quarters they could at least hang in and maybe pull off an ugly win. So that's going to sting not grabbing at least one win on the road between Pitt and North Carolina, because it puts more pressure on yourself, because you know you're not beating Clemson. Louisville's going to be a tough win on the road. You go to Notre Dame. These are tough places to go in and win, crowd or no crowd. So they take care of business at home. That's still possible, but we mentioned how they don't even need 6 wins to go to a bowl game this year. Everything's kind of thrown up in crazy times here in 2020, that's for sure. Rob noting that we talked last week about the Blake situation. Him not playing this year shows how egregiously silly the NCAA can be. Any chance we get guys back from injury during the bye, most notably the Davis offensive linemen, if they're able to return in 2 weeks, what level of productivity and improvement can we look for from the offensive line? Rob, I think it is possible. Getting injury information from Syracuse sometimes isn't the easiest thing, but a bye week certainly helps. They really need Davis back out there, particularly with Blake not being out there. As you mentioned, we covered it. What a joke. What a joke that the NCAA didn't approve his waiver. And my colleague Chris Carlson wrote a story about this week. I hope you can check it out. And it kind of painted the picture of how Florida mistreated him through injury, and I felt horrible for that kid. He should be out on the field. He had COVID in the offseason. He recovered. He's fine from that, thankfully. He should be on the field for Syracuse, but they need Davis. So, hey, we got Rob Hanna's mom in the house. Welcome. Great game for Rob out there today. Glad he's okay, by the way. Took a little shot on the field. I'm sure Mama was nervous about that, right? But he was okay, got back out there, had a heck of a game. So welcome. Always like to hear where you're watching from. And we got players' moms and family checking in. Fantastic. A lot of people from Florida checking in today. Like to see that. Terrific. So as we mentioned, Syracuse goes into a bye week here. And Rob made a great point. Who's going to be healthy? Who do they get back out of that bye week? You really need help on the offensive line. I don't know if you guys noticed this. There was one point when I believe it was one of Sean Tucker's touchdown runs where McKinley Williams and I believe Josh Black, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, they were run blocking. So it shows you the offensive line is still, even the players that are out there, some of them are not 100%. They need an extra boost. They need that push. Chris Elmore, God bless him, is doing all he can at that left guard position. But who gets healthy? Certainly need Andre Cisco to be healthy, although, right, Mom? Rob's been great, and Jihad Carter's been great, and Ife Melifonwu, kind of a bogus pass interference call on him today, but he's been solid. Trill Williams, that electric touchdown play that we saw. You want Cisco back out there, though, because he's just one of those players where a quarterback has to know where he is at all times, and it makes him think a little bit too much. So hopefully they kind of get healthy, and now you're comfortable. The offense has some confidence. Open it up a little bit more. Let's throw the ball to the tight ends more. I know I say that a lot, but they need to. You know what I was encouraged by, though, to be fair? Not only did they at least target the tight ends more today, a lot of slant routes today. Did you notice that? They tried to get the ball quick into Johnson, tried to get the ball quick into Anthony Quealy. It was great that they threw those touchdown passes, but those quick slants, get Tommy in a rhythm, right? That's what that offense is designed to do. What the Syracuse offense ultimately wants to do is it wants to spread out the defense as much as possible, right? From from sideline to sideline, right? Use that space in the middle. You got to be careful when you throw the ball in the middle of the field, but when it's there and the receiver's got a jump on his defender, put the ball in the hands, especially of those speedy receivers that they have. So I hope we see more of that too. Now they've got a running game with Tucker. Let's see more of that. And as the season goes, Gilbert and Babers can open up that offense a little bit more. And I think going to a bye week, if you're on the defensive side of the ball, you cannot, that's an A+ for that defense. To come out in the 3-3-5, which is a complicated defense, right? But for Tony White to install it the way he has, for those players to be confident, the takeaways that Syracuse has had at this point, again, they had some moments today they'd like back, but you got to expect the defense to step back a little bit after their terrific performance in week 1 and week 2. The defense has been terrific. So now you start adding a few more wrinkles, and now that thing is on film a little bit and you give teams a little bit more to look at, what are the tweaks that Tony White can make in his defense? But all told, really impressive performance today from Syracuse given the circumstances, right? As Paul notes here, the offense opened up because of Tucker showing last week he should be the starter. Without a consistent running attack, DeVito can't be effective as a passer. That was the difference. Paul, that's an absolutely great point. Through 2 weeks, Syracuse was averaging 59 yards a game on the ground. You can't run an efficient offense. You're constantly going to be in third and long situations if you can't run the ball on first and second down. So great point, Paul. I'm glad you got that in here before we wrap up. So you guys enjoy your bye week, okay? Take note of that. We will not be here next week. We will be back on October the 10th. There's no game time on that yet, so we'll let you know about that game time when the ACC announces it. And then after the game, we'll pop on here on Facebook Live. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health. We're going to be here after every game. If you do miss it, though, we do put this on YouTube. So subscribe to Syracuse Orange Sports on YouTube, or just look for it in my recap on syracuse.com. Look for Chris Carlson's great coverage, Dennis Nett's terrific photos from inside the dome. We got a great look at it today on the TV broadcast, or if you were watching on the app and the iPad today. If you were in central New York, the game was not on locally on television, unfortunately. But Dennis will have tons of great photos and insight from a 37-20 win by Syracuse today, a win they certainly needed going into the bye week. So thanks for watching today. We're going to come back October 10th, okay, after Syracuse plays Duke, and we'll do this whole darn thing all over again. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.